All right. Good morning, my friends. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMAOddsbreaker. We are here for UFC Vegas 54, where we have Jan Blachowicz taking on Aleksandar Rakic. Now, light heavyweight matchup. Blachowicz getting up there in age, 39 years old, taking on the young buck who has a phenomenal physique, phenomenal gas tank in Rakic. Looking forward to that main event this evening. But first up, first fight of the night, we've got Andrea Petroski taking on Nick Maximov. Nick Maximov, well known for training with the Diaz brothers, only 24 years of age. Coming in here, what I enjoy watching about Maximov is he's very positionally sound when it comes to the grappling. Doesn't necessarily put himself in bad situations. Can grind out top time. And Petroski is a bit of a front runner out there. I've watched him muscle-bound, grappler as well. You look at the line here, minus 340, a little wide for my liking. Surprisingly, fight doesn't go the distance here, is sitting at a plus number. I think Maximov is live here to get a submission, especially as Petroski tends to fade down the stretch. Also, Petroski comes out like a bat out of hell early. These two should tangle right off the bat, and I'll be picking Maximov to win in that matchup. Next up, where we have flyweights, men's flyweights. We've got Carlos Candelario, who pulled out of a fight a couple weeks ago, showed up looking in horrible shape on the scales, had to get back on the scale multiple times to make weight, eventually did here, plus 240 for Candelario. It's interesting that folks are willing to go back to the well here against Tatsuro Taira, who is a bit of an unknown. You watch his tape on from Shuto in Japan, is a back taker, lightning quick transitions to the back. Also massive for the division, only 22 years of age. I am not going out of my way here to fade this up-and-coming prospect. I think that Carlos Candelario may be one of the worst bets on this card. I've got to be honest. What are you getting here? You are looking at a fighter who, yes, has some well-roundedness, has a bit of wrestling, but can get out-muscled in significant stretches, can fade down the stretch. You knew that he pulled out of the fight a couple of weeks ago, and I don't see the love for Carlos Candelario here. I'll be picking Tatsuro Taira. I think that he will likely get this done by submission. The thing here is, it's okay to pass on a play. And this is one of those situations where you could sit back and watch this fight because you can't trust what you haven't seen. And you haven't seen Tatsuro Taira compete inside of the octagon. Some folks may want to go out and fade the Asian prospect because it's been successful in previous spots. But I am not going to be backing Carlos Candelario here. And I'll be picking Tatsuro Taira to win. And win so inside the distance. Also, inside the distance, fight doesn't go the distance here, is sitting at minus 130-ish. So take a peek at that if you think that Candelario can finish Taira. Candelario doesn't really throw for power, isn't a serious submission threat. Not a big fan of his overall game, and especially the health situations here. We know Fights aren't necessarily won or lost on the scale, but you want to at least make it to the fight. And Candelario had to bust his ass just to make it here. Very bad luck. So Tatsuro Taira is the pick. Next up, where we have Virna Jandiroba coming in as a minus 200 betting favorite, taking on Angela Hill, who's been around the block, 37 years of age. Both of these fighters are getting up there. Jandiroba, 33. You watch the footage and you see that Jandiroba has the better ground game here, better wrestling game, can establish top control for significant stretches. Angela Hill should be on her bike trying to stay evasive. Will look to land volume. Jandiroba coming off of a loss to Amanda Ribas. I like Jandiroba in this spot. The number's been creeping up. Surprisingly, I'm a little bit surprised that it's sitting at minus 200 now. I thought we'd get a little bit better number there. So Jandiroba, here's another thing just to mention that you want to back fighters who will fight for your money, fighters who are not going to get their asses kicked for your money. Want to take that into consideration. And Jandiroba should be the one trying to close distance and grapple here. Hill, better striking game, better stand up as far as the striking defense goes as well. I'll be picking Jandiroba in this spot. I think that she's going to either pull out a decision, or this is the other thing, who's likely to get a finish in this spot? I would say Jandiroba is much more likely to get a finish than Angela Hill. So you set yourself up in two spots there by backing Jandiroba. So give me Jandiroba to win in that spot. Next up, where we have two fighters who I do not trust either of these fighters, Allan Patrick and Michael Johnson. Interestingly enough, this is another spot where fight doesn't go the distance, is sitting at a plus number here. Michael Johnson minus 150, better striker here, but you can't trust what Michael Johnson's going to do as far as implementing an unforced error-free game plan for 15 minutes. We've seen against Thiago Moises and others, has come out looking phenomenal, and then the wheels fall off. Allan Patrick, we know that he's been training with Charles Oliveira. I believe he left camp in Florida where he was training for the Mason Jones fight. We saw how that played out. One of the bad beats of the year was on Mason Jones inside the distance in that spot, and we saw Patrick look for a way out after the eye poke. In this spot, I'll be picking Michael Johnson here, though I do not trust either of these fighters. I would rather play fight doesn't go the distance here. Allan Patrick. I went back and watched that Scott Holtzman fight. Interesting how Patrick has a tendency to fade down the stretch. Bobby Green fight. There have been others. Patrick comes out like a ball of fire. Has the much better grappling here, better ground game. Now, training with Charles Oliveira, this is something to take into consideration. There are multiple fighters training with Oliveira here, and I think they're going to get off to a bad start. I think Michael Johnson is going to end up setting the tone here and winning, but I can't trust Allan Patrick, can't trust Michael Johnson. Give me Michael Johnson though, and fight doesn't go the distance. Now, Viviane Araujo is taking on Andrea Lee in a very closely lined fight. Minus 110 for Araujo. Andrea Lee minus 120. Love the gas tank of Andrea Lee. Really has shown what she's made of recently. And with Tony Kelly in her corners, he's a great mind for the sport. If you have some time, listen to John's interview with Andrea Lee and with Tony Kelly. He does phenomenal work. John Coe. Andrea Lee here. A couple of things that she has going against her are she isn't necessarily very strong and doesn't throw for big power. She does throw for volume. So Araujo tends to come out dialed in. Alexis Davis fight. There have been others where she comes in comes out dialed in. By the way, I thought Araujo won her last fight, I believe against Chukagan. I'll be picking Araujo here. Andrea Lee could get the grappling going. We know the takedown defense of Andrea Lee is an issue, but Araujo isn't necessarily a tremendous grappler in her own right. I see Araujo having the heavier punches landing at times, and she started MMA pretty late in her life. Worried about the gas tank for Araujo there. I'll be picking Viviane Araujo here. Let's see. We've got some chats, some people in the chat here. First time catching the show live. Let's make the weekend. All right. Good morning, Nazir. Oh, right. Great. Appreciate you. Sergio, good to see you this morning. So the pick is going to be Araujo here. I think it's going to come down to a strength factor, and Andrea Lee could potentially get down 2 rounds early here and then win the 3rd round, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I see Araujo running away with this one. Next up, where we have men's flyweights, we've got Allan Nascimento taking on Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley, I tweeted a few days ago that he's had some trouble on the scales. Didn't have trouble yesterday, though. Made weight. White Kong looked solid out there. Did not look great against Mitch Raposo in his Contender Series bout. Nascimento has had a bit of bad luck here, losing split decisions against some tough competition. Here's how I see this fight playing out, and I have a pretty good record making bets on flyweight fights. I believe we're hitting at 80% all time. I think in this bout, after watching the tape, that Jake Hadley will he will find himself in a dominant position on the ground where he's going to control Allan Nascimento for extended periods of time. Nascimento is I don't want to say great grappler. He's a good grappler in his own right, has a lot of submission victories, but spends a lot of time on his back and will throw up submission attempts to get himself out of bad spots. And I don't think Hadley's going to fall for that. I think Hadley also has a smothering game that causes a lot of folks problems and should cause Nascimento problems here. I'll be picking Jake Hadley to win, and I see him potentially winning a dominant decision or getting a submission of his own late. Next up, where we have the return of Frank the Crank Camacho coming in as a plus 100 underdog, taking on a newcomer in Manny Torres, who is sitting at minus 130. This fight, you look around at books and you see fight doesn't go the distance, hovering around minus 250-ish. I don't see this one going the distance, but how is this one going to end? Camacho with a pretty bad look last time out. Justin James lost right off the bat, missed weight, has taken a few years away from the game, is the more well-rounded fighter here. Manny Torres has some dynamic striking, but he's a bit of a wild man in there, and I'm a little concerned for Torres here and what we're going to get out of him. May potentially be more patient out there. Camacho also, one thing, you watch the pre-fight interviews, Frank Camacho was speaking about being much more patient in his approach. I think that he's going to I think he might end up grappling here because Torres is very, very dangerous on the feet. And also the last time out, Camacho was knocked out in the opening seconds of the bout. So I have concerns for Camacho. I think that Manny Torres is live here, and I think that Torres could potentially earn a knockout victory in this spot. Camacho is no spring chicken either. I noticed that a lot of folks are on Camacho. He has much more his resume speaks volumes. He's fought many competent fighters, and he has a lot of knockout victories. But Camacho, I'll be interested to see if he ends up coming out here with a grappling game plan. I'll be picking Manny Torres, though. I don't trust Camacho, and he lost to quite possibly the worst fighter on the UFC roster, Justin James, who I believe he's lost 4 or 5. He's on a 5-fight losing streak, and he's losing on the regional level as well right now, Justin James. If you take a look at his record, give me Manny Torres in this spot. Next up, where we have Amanda Ribas taking on Katlyn Chookagian. Ribas moving up in weight here against one of I've faded Chookagian. She's lost me a lot of money through the years fading Chookagian. We got one back against Jessica Andrade, but one thing about Chookagian, she, as far as optics goes, will put herself in a great position. The sounds that emanate from from her while she's trying to poke out her strikes, which don't necessarily land, and also if they do land, don't pose any type of power threat whatsoever. Amanda Ribas, also not necessarily a power threat, but one thing Ribas does have is a great ground game, and we know Chookagian has a solid ground game as well. We don't get to see it that often. You watch the takedown defense, she looks like a skyscraper out there, Chookagian. Tough spot to come out and pick Ribas here, but I have to continue to do it against Chookagian, who is she's getting up there in age. She's going to try to stay at distance and fight the same game plan she does every time out. Amanda Ribas, if she can get this fight to the ground and burn control time in top position, she becomes very live here. I noticed that the line is starting to get pretty wide. If Ribas ends up hitting plus 175-ish, I may end up taking a poke there. I'll be picking Ribas to win. I don't trust. You know what? I will say this. I trust Katlyn Chookagian to do exactly what she's done in previous matchups. And I know it's been a recipe for success in the past. I'm not a fan of her overall game. And Amanda Ribas is a much more dangerous fighter on the ground. So I think I would be elated if Amanda Ribas was able to take Chookagian down and lock up a submission. And that might be my my hot take of the day, that Ribas ends up winning via sub. That would be something. Next up, where we have Luis Smolka taking on Davey Grant. Davey Grant coming in as did you ever think you'd see Davey Grant coming in as a minus 295 betting favorite? That is incredible. Taking on Luis Smolka plus 230. Luis Smolka was smoked out last time out against Vince Morales, and not a good look when you're getting lit up by Casey Kenny as well, who's not necessarily a power threat. Davey Grant, one of the toughest guys on the roster. Love watching him fight. He will fight hard for your money and go tooth and nail to get you that W. But he's been submitted 4 times, and Smolka has a wiry frame he'll look to excel in transitions. That's one of Luis Smolka's best assets here. Luis Smolka, you watch his wrestling, he gets out-muscled at every weight class. The wrestling is not his strength, but the transitions are. Somehow he's able to take the back of opponents. I don't see this fight going the distance. At one point, this line could have been had for minus 185-ish, and now it's sitting at minus 280-ish. I see Davey Grant getting this done inside the distance, but if he's not able to do that, Luis Smolka is always live for a submission here. I don't like that wide line at minus 295 on Davey Grant, but I will be picking Davey Grant to win in that spot. Next up, where we head to the light heavyweight division, and we have Ian Cutelaba, who has looked much better fighting out of a camp in Las Vegas, where he's shown that he's matured to some degree. You watched the face-offs yesterday, didn't cause too much of a ruckus. Ryan Spann is on the other side of this fight as a plus 190 underdog. Ryan Spann One of the gaping holes in his game is his wrestling. He does have a submission threat to him, but he can be put on his back and can be put in some tough spots, can be out-muscled. Fight IQ is an issue as well. Ion Cutelaba, this kid has grown up inside the octagon, now only 28 years of age, has fought some incredible competition, has wilted when met with some serious adversity through the years, though the Devin Clark fight showed us that he can go 3 hard rounds against a fighter. Devin Clark is a tough fighter, man. In this spot, I'll be picking Ion Cutelaba. I think that he has multiple ways to win this fight. One concern of mine, though, is him emptying the tank in the second round and then not having anything left in the gas tank for the third round. We've seen that happen in previous spots, but Cutelaba is live to get a ground and pound finish here. The wrestling should be on display if he doesn't get caught by something thrown by Ryan Spann. That's a concern of mine. I'll be picking Ion Cutelaba in this spot. And he's one of those fighters who you know what you're going to get for your money. He's a fighter who will come out, go balls to the wall, close distance, land takedowns, and look to smash you with elbows. And that's what I'm expecting here. So give me Cutelaba. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 400, but I'll be picking Cutelaba, and he likely gets it done inside the distance. Final fight, the 11th fight of the card, where we have Jan Blachowicz taking on Aleksandar Rakic. Rakic coming in as a minus 210 favorite. This line has widened throughout the week. Jan Blachowicz is sitting at plus 170, 39 years of age. Cause for concern, he pulled out of a fight recently, has spent some time on the sidelines, no spring chicken, has heavy hands. Rakic, I believe the Ledette fight, there have been some cause for concern here with Rakic. I don't feel very confident with backing him over minus 200. Blachowicz is a tough fighter with a legitimate jiu-jitsu game who not too long ago, he was beating Stylebender here, and we know the Dominic Reyes fight, if he's trading with you in the pocket, he can land some heavy strikes. So I think that Blachowicz, he learned a lot after that Glover Teixeira lost his belt, and that should have lit a fire under him here. This is a tough spot because you have Rakic, who is, he's got a great gas tank, only 30 years of age, is a physical specimen. I have no idea how he's able to maintain such a phenomenal physique at that weight class. Looks great, and also can go at least 3 hard rounds. I suspect he'll be able to go 5 in this spot. Isn't necessarily a submission threat. Isn't really a heavy power threat on the feet as well. So I see Rakic winning a decision here, but there could be some sketchy moments where Jan Blachowicz ends up causing some problems here for Rakic. So give me Aleksandar Rakic. Want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Remember to go get what's yours. You can check out my plays at MMAOddsbreaker Premium, and I am third-party tracked on betmma.tips. We are over 100 units in profit here. Third-party transparency is key. Go get what's yours, my friends. Tail third-party track winners. Make sure you know where you're getting your advice from, and have a phenomenal Saturday. Let's do this, my friends. Cheers.